Hello and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are going to review a green or lesser oxidized oolong. It's from Taiwan. It's from the Alishan region and it's made using the Qing Xin cultivar. It is from Curious Tea and it's their Alishan Green Heart Oolong. I have my laptop here just so I can double check the notes, make sure I don't say the wrong thing. A word of explanation. This is one of many videos that we have that we're going to look at, that we've already looked at, that we are looking at, all based on the Qing Xin cultivar. And I've realized I've mentioned the sort of provenance of some of these other Taiwanese tea cultivars, but not Qing Xin. However, Curious Tea's website makes the point that it's considered, it's pondered, that Qing Xin is the same as the Ruan Ji soft stem cultivar that we've looked at in the form of a black tea, and that was brought from Fujian to Taiwan some time ago by the Japanese, and then over time it's evolved, developed, and turned into Qing Xin. This is a spring harvest tea. It's April 2025, grown at over 1,000 meters, as I say, in Alishan. The flavor profile is, there's mention here of buttered green beans. I hope it's more on the butter and less on the green beans. Something floral as well, which I do like. Orchid, there's a word that's often brought up when it comes to these teas. Now, the important point is, in terms of oxidation, we're looking at about 15 to 20% oxidation, and it's unbaked. So that gives us some extra details there. So this is pretty much as it's not quite Wenshan Baozhong, and it's kind of merciless simplicity, but it's pretty, I like the way that they've stripped out variation as well. It's low oxidation, it's unbaked, it's Qing Xin, it's high altitude. So we're getting to see what the Alishan region and seasonality up in Alishan brings to a tea. So let's move on to our close-ups of the packaging and the tea leaves. Back in a mo. This is the packaging for our tea from Curious Tea. This is the Alishan Green Heart Oolong, in other words, the Alishan Qing Xin Oolong. As always, I like to show the packaging from Curious Tea because although what I assume is craft paper packaging is identical, we always get a good label which uses a combination of colour scheme and symbolism, as well as the wording to point out what it is we're looking at. So this is the Alishan Green Heart Oolong, as we've said. It's a high mountain oolong from the Qing Xin cultivar, grown in Alishan at over 1,000 meters. Large leaves, bright floral liquor, smooth character, verdant, buttery notes, clean aftertaste. Summed up, one word for the flavor profile there is floral. The harvest is April 2025. In other words, it's a spring harvest, and then we have the brewing parameters there. So let's move on to look at the leaves inside the packaging. Back in a mo. This is the close-up of Curious Tea's Alishan Green Heart Oolong. This is April 2025. Put my teeth back in. So this is a spring harvest tea. The tea beads are quite small. They're coming into about 3 millimeters, I would say, on average. There's a couple that are more like 4 or 5, but it's definitely within about the 3 millimeter range. The color scheme is pretty uniform, pretty much dark green. In fact, it's so dark, I'm not sure how well the camera is going to pick up that distinction. And yeah, there's one or two paler bits of a lighter green color, but I'm not even really able to see the stem very much. I might be able to see some of it just there. Forgive the rustle while I open up the packaging, just so we can take a smell of the leaves. There's a slightly tart edge. It's sweet, it's floral or fruity, but there's a really, really nice, almost piney edge there. That tartness is translating into a slightly pine scent on the leaves, which is very appetizing. which is another reason why I am looking forward to reviewing this tea, both Western and Gongfu. So let's move on to that now. See you in a mo. Here we are for our Western or Teapot brewing and review of Curious Tea's Alishan Green Heart Oolong. The brewing parameters are 3 grams of tea to 250 mils of water at 95 degrees centigrade. Not quite the ones from Curious Tea, and that's for 3 minutes. I've bought myself a set of new jugs, and I'm hoping that when we get to have more than one tea at a time on the table, we'll be able to get a more sort of uniform look at the teas. So let's take a look first of all at the colour. It's pale. It's from that angle, which that's pretty much accurate. It's a yellowy green. It's neither yellow nor green. It's somewhere in between. The smell, very rich. I'm just going to pour this out to cool it down. There is something, I would say it's fruity rather than floral. And it's quite complex. So it isn't just a sort of generic fruit or a generic sweetness. So we're going to let this cool. And let's take a sniff from the cup. Much the same. It's complex, it's rich, and there's freshness in there as well. It's very refreshing. Almost a slightly perfumey note to that. I think it's actually slightly more floral than it is fruity. But it's very appealing. I really enjoyed that. There is almost a sort of green fruit kind of aspect to that as well. Maybe that's what I was picking up. But it's floral, it's very fresh, and it's green, very much what you'd expect from Qing Xin. I'm not picking up much in the sense of like a creaminess or anything like that in the Western, but we'll see if we can pick that up in the Gongfu brewing, which we'll move on to now. See you in a mo. Hello and welcome to the final part of our video, which is a Gongfu review of our tea from Curious Tea. It's a Alishan Green Heart Oolong, so a Qing Xin Oolong. Low oxidation, no baking. So, just a word of explanation. I've got a set of new jugs, which you've been seeing in the first part of the video. And I'm using, it's not strictly speaking a new Gaiwan. This was from Christmas, but I haven't brought it out for sort of regular use until now. So this is a rather nice Gaiwan set that I was gifted. I was tempted to do one of those family and friends videos just to show it off. And it comes with 4 cups, and I brought out 2 of the cups that match the design on the Gaiwan. It's a flying crane design, I believe. I'm using the lid from another Gaiwan as a platter for the tea leaves. The other reason for explaining so much at this point is that I've been experimenting recently with much hotter water, especially for Gongfu. I've been using water at 100 degrees centigrade, except for some rather more delicate tea. I'm talking about green oolongs, all these rolled oolongs. So much shorter steeps, but much hotter water. But we're going to be doing 50 mils at a time for 3 grams of tea. This Gaiwan, having done some measuring with it, to fill it up to a sensible level, sensible capacity is about 100, but we're going to stick to 50. I've been measuring it to see where 50 comes. So, got my stopwatch here. We'll go for 50 mils, and we'll maybe start as low as 20 seconds. So get that on. It's quite thick walls for the Gaiwan, so I'm hoping it keeps heat in very well as well. So we're coming up to 22nd, that was 20. Nothing coming out yet, not even any popping, so we may need to give this a bit longer. That's 30. Maybe go for 40 actually, not picking up much at all. Don't want to overdo it, so we'll stick to 40. That's 40. It's most of the vegetable that's coming out in that first steep, with some sweetness. The tea, you can see it a lot easier with the white inside of this, is pretty much unsteeped and unfurled at the moment. But there's that standard sweet, almost coconutty vegetable quality to the soaked leaves, to the extent that they are soaked. The colour, for a first steep, bearing in mind, even at 100, is a pale yellow. It's a nice colour, but it's a pale yellow. The smell, it's pretty mild, but there's some vegetable quality. Now I'm going to move this across to another cup so it cools down, especially given it's at 100, or it was. Then back again. See where that gets us. Mostly the vegetable note. Mild flavour, but a lot of mouthfeel already. Wow. A slight vegetable note, but it's just the amount of mouthfeel. That was incredible. So let's reset the stopwatch and we'll see where 40 seconds gets us this time. Hopefully a lot closer to the leaves being unfurled. Yeah, there's some popping and some movement this time. That's good. Oops, waste water for the rest of that. Doing lots of videos today, so I really don't want to drink too much tea. That's just going past 20. Let's try 25. Everything's looking a lot more steeped. Of course, it's possible that this new Gaiwan, which I haven't got used to, you don't pick up quite as much of the scent of the steam. Right, that's coming up to 40. Okay, let's call it 45, because I'm really not picking up much. Although the leaves are looking unfurled. That's 45. Oh, there's more colour there. That's good. A lot more sweetness and some vegetal notes. Very sweet. Really, really sweet. Okay, let's see how that comes across. Colour-wise, that's a lot more intense. Yeah, much more yellow. Yeah, that's very intense. Looking at the leaves, you can probably see even from there how much of the stalk material is now visible, because that's soaked up the water and the leaves have unfurled slightly. They don't feel cardboardy as if they haven't soaked, but they're still a little tough. I suspect there's still a fair bit of give in there. Let's move the tea across. Okay, what's the smell like? Very sweet, very inviting, very complex sweetness. I'm going to move it across. Incidentally, don't want to tip it too far. It looks a lovely colour against a white background. Again, just loads of mouthfeel. Still a bit thin. And that's 100 degrees. I'm not quite sure what else we could do other than bump it up more. The leaves still smell much the same. Okay, we may need to give this sort of a full minute, maybe slightly less water as well. Let's see where that gets us. Okay, let's give that a full 50 to start with, and then we'll see if we can take it further from there. I haven't done I haven't recorded a video in maybe 10 days or so. I'm feeling a little bit rusty. I tried to make sure I've got about a fortnight's worth in advance. That way it makes it easier to get to holidays and know I can go away and the channel's still covered. Okay. So that's us coming up to 50. Maybe 55, just because it wasn't registering a great deal of anything. No, a full minute. Not going to fidget either. Full minute. Okay. Complex sweetness once again. Vegetal and creamy, which is pretty good. Let's take that off. What's the colour for our third steep? I don't think that's lost any intensity from the last steeping. Still a lovely rich yellow, maybe a touch of green in there this time. That's slightly more complex. The cream is there, the vegetal notes are there, and some sweetness as well. And the vegetal notes are coming through on the cup this time. Okay. Freshness, loads of mouth, loads of body again, very smooth. Vegetal and sweet. I couldn't pin it down to fruit or floral, although technically it's meant to be floral. It's not really coming through. I'm going to take a bit more of that for that last steeping. I'm surprised at how much of a punishment that's needing to take Gongfu to brew it, because when it was brewing Western, all of the teas in this mini-series responded really well. They were unfurling very rapidly. Yeah, it's a vegetal and the cream that's coming through the strongest. Okay, so what can we say about this tea? It's one thing that I like about Qing Xin and this high mountain version of it is it's incredibly intense despite the growing conditions or what that might... actually, I was going to say the growing conditions for high mountain teas, because it's slower, because of the climate, it tends to concentrate the flavours, and it's certainly concentrating body. This one, Western and Gongfu's had a lot of body. There's been a lot of sweetness, a lot of creamy texture as well. Those leaves are pretty well steep. They're now very tender. I'm sure you could get more of a steep out of them, but it would be one of the ones where you put a lot more water in and gave it a bit longer, really treated it more like a teapot. But there's nothing unfurled there. There's nothing unsteeped there, should I say. So all in all, a good showing for spring 2025 for our Alishan tea using the Qing Xin cultivar. This is all part of a series. We're not reviewing it as such, but it is, I'll just say right at the start from this first video, it's very available. And this spring one has made a good showing. So I hope to see you for the next video. Happy steeping and God bless.